Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome.
And live we are, everybody knows, every Tuesday night at 8, it's time for another insightful, sometimes exciting edition of the MCW Cast. I'm Legacy, MCW Pro announcer Larry Legend.
And I'm Tara.
And I am Platinum Nat.
Former guest of the MCW Cast.
Absolutely happy to be here as a guest host.
Yes,
That's
indeed.
right.
We're happy to have you.
Yeah, and speaking of exciting episodes, Larry, last week was certainly exciting. We had the legendary Chad Austin in studio with some colorful conversation. Nat, you probably would have enjoyed it.
I'm sure. I remember a lot about Chad from back in the day, in the early days of MCW, and even MEWF before that.
Yes. Well, Chad has certainly lived the life, that's for sure. And he was highly entertaining. And if you missed that, you can, of course, catch that on all the major podcast platforms: Apple Podcasts, Google Play, SoundCloud, Spotify, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, Breaker, Radio Public, and Castbox. And, of course, watch the live in-studio version on Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube.
Yes, indeed, an insightful and I mean, in a word, legendary episode and guest in Chad Austin. Funny thing about Chad, when I was, I guess, helping out at the old Bone Breakers, a lot of the times I would find myself kind of figured into not necessarily the training, but kind of like when training was over, we would just like kind of like play around, like mess around. And I remember Chad used to always want to do these kind of like Georgia Championship 8-man tag television taping, like as if we were doing that with the ring. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the times he would get me involved up to and including having me kind of be, do like take some bumps or get a little shine. And it was when one of these times, and it was like an 8-man tag where it was Chad, Romeo Valentino, Keenan Creed, and probably Lunchbox against, a team of ham bones, as we were called. And I was one of the ones in there. And I remember at one point, Chad told me to start firing up on him. And, I learned how to take bumps from Bruiser and Earl and everyone, but I never really learned how to, like, deliver any strikes. And in the moment, Chad said, "Come on, fire up on me, do something." And the only thing that I could, my first instinct was to do kind of like the Mongolian Kamala style chops. And Chad worked with me, he sold them. And, once he registered the first one, I was like, okay, I'm working with something here. I got him in the corner and I started giving him more of them up until the point that eventually he turned it around. And I think Keenan came off the top on me. But this is all going somewhere. I actually somehow or other found myself wrestling.
I was just going to bring that up.
On Halloween night, I found myself wrestling in a battle royal, and I didn't do much, but my training from the early days of Bone Breakers stuck with me in that moment. Here it is, 2021. I find myself in a battle royal, and I've got to defend myself and act like I know what I'm doing. I've got nothing but all eyes on me, and my time with Chad in the old Bone Breakers ring came right back to me, and 3 or 4 guys got, that Jimmy Cicero Hassa, style uppercut, or that, Kamala falling tomahawk chop. And it was silly. But I was able to have that fun.
Any thumb to the throat, Muda style?
You know what? It's been a long time since I've been in the ring. Everything happens so fast. There's so many, bodies around you. You're kind of like, let me watch my back here. I got to act like I know. So I didn't get any thumb shots in there. No thumbs to the bum, as Steve Corino would give, because a lot of times when it's a battle royal, you can do anything. You give someone a goose, 5-finger fox catcher, or whatever have you, and no one's the wiser because everything's going on. But it was a lot of fun, and it just was, Chad, if you're watching this, thank you. Thank you for having fun with me back when I was just office assistant and having me ref and then actually take some bumps and kind of learn, like, if I'm ever in a situation where I've got to, really mix it up in there, to throw some shots that are kind of like signature wrestling strikes, but also ones that I can't kind of mess up. You know, because if I was trying to do a forearm or a punch, I'm not a fighter, I'm not a boxer, I don't know how to do that. Bruiser never showed me, Earl never showed me, but it was my time in the ring with Chad, just messing around, that, you know, I kind of gave him those Mongolian, you know, the side deals and then the thrust up into the throat, and, you know, Chad's, you know, holding his windpipe and stuff like that. So, you know, in this instance where I was called on to participate in this battle royal, this hardcore battle royal, I was out there, and after examining the footage, I don't look that bad. So thank you, Chad, for you know, putting me on that path to eventually being able to know my way around a ring if I happen to find myself in there.
Well, that is a good story. I liked your segue because I was actually going to bring that up, that you had shared with me that you had wrestled over Halloween weekend. But that was quite a show that we were talking about before we went on the air tonight. That was one of those death matches, right?
Well, not everything, just the main event.
Right,
the main event was a huge FMWE style death match, which is a lot of fire, barbed wire, just hardcore business. But, you know, there's always an undercard to something like that, a spectacle like that. And in this show, H2O Destiny, which kudos to Matt Tremont and his wife Chrissy for putting it all together. It was in a magnificent baseball stadium in Trenton, New Jersey. I guess kind of like, you know, our Ripken Stadium out there, kind of like, you know, for the minor leagues or whatnot. But it was great. They didn't fill the place, but that's okay.
It's hard to fill a baseball stadium. We've done shows there. MCW's run shows at baseball stadiums. It's hard to fill it.
Even with an international talent like Onita, it wasn't full. But everyone was raucous, excited, and they definitely saw things that they probably weren't expecting to see, like Larry Legend in the Hardcore Battle Royal, which was a surprise. I didn't even know that I tagged along. I did a very rare, hey, you guys going to a show? I'll get in the car, and it's Halloween. Why not go see a show? And, you know, I arrived, and people were like, you're here? We're putting you in the Battle Royal. And I'm like, you are? You know, they're like, yeah, so.
Well, I'm just glad you were not set on fire like the guy in the main event.
Yeah, it was actually a harrowing thing for me to observe.
I can imagine. I don't know how. I mean, thank goodness it was outside. When I saw the video of that, thank goodness it was outside. But wow, I mean, I don't know how I would feel about watching that.
Well, I'll tell you this much from the backstage area. I'm sorry to cut you off there, Nat, but from the backstage area, I never had seen Matt Tremont, the Bulldozer, in the frame of mind that he was in before he went out there.
Yeah.
First of all, this was his first match back from retiring a year ago. So he was coming back into the fray, and he was doing a match that was going to end in some sort of fiery explosion. So the potential of being injured was a lot heightened, and he almost was unapproachable, just kind of pacing, you know, wasn't with his opponent, you know. We know how it is in the backstage area. A lot of the times you're with your opponent. You're talking, Onita's all the way in another side of the arena.
You said he'd worked with Onita before. So
yeah, I'd worked with him before, yeah. So, but this was a one-on showdown in the States, which every time that they had fought before, it kind of turned into a tag affair or, you know, something where it was like Onita, who is 63 years old, by the way, could kind of be protected in his waning years. Yeah.
I did not know that.
63 years old. Atsushi Onita started FMW, came to the United States in a rare appearance and fought Matt Tremont.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people my age were really drawn into that. Just, you know, back in the 90s, it was Onita. That was where we got the tapes. If you're collecting videotapes, Onita and Funk and all those old death matches from FMW, that's we had to see it. It was all over the internet. This is the match you gotta see if you're a hardcore fan.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of Onita is a mystical figure in the world of pro wrestling. So and you know, Nat, that is what makes me love pro wrestling more than anything else that is like athletic. I always bring this up. Whenever you're watching like football or baseball and like your team is losing, there's no chance that all of a sudden Cal Ripken's just going to come out of the dugout and be like, hey, you know what? You guys need it. I'm going to give it to you one more time. But, you know, in pro wrestling, it is not too far-fetched of an idea to think that Mayor of Knox County, Tennessee, Kane, will one day appear in the Royal Rumble again and chokeslam someone. Or The Undertaker at 70 years old will come out and give, like, you know, the most pitiful-looking big boot ever, but we'll still pop for it because it's the nostalgia of there's our guy. There's our guy. He's back for one little thing, you know? Tony Saragusa can't do that anymore. So it's one of the fun parts about wrestling. You get to, the legends never die.
Absolutely. So the big thing this week is the Shamrock Cup. We're in Shamrock Week.
Yep.
So
And we're going to talk about it when we come back from the quick break. But if you are, speaking of nostalgia, we have to talk about our Flashback Friday real quick. We got to give our listeners this week's Flashback Friday, which is Seasons Beating back in 2015. So not super ancient or anything, but it's EC3 versus Brandon Scott. It was the first time we'd had EC3 here, I believe. And he was paired up against Brandon Scott, who's, of course, one of our fan favorites here. So check that out on Flashback Friday, and we'll be right back after this break.
Engage with the MCW Cast on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch for a chance to get your questions answered on a future episode of the cast. Or send us a tweet with the hashtag AskMCWCast.
And we are back with the MCW Cast. We're going to be talking a little bit about Shane Shamrock Memorial Cup, since this is the big week leading up to Friday here in Joppa. We're going to be bringing back a couple of the stars who've won in the past. One of those, Brandon Scott, who we just mentioned, is the reigning MCW Shane Shamrock Memorial Cup champion. So I'm sure he's interested in repeating. There's only been a few people who've repeated in the past, but since I remember from back in the day working with Shane Shamrock, there's not a lot of us who go back and actually got to spend any time in the ring with him. So when I was training at Bone Breakers, that was the era where they beat all of us trainees up. Mm-hmm. And Shane was one of those, because I heard about how much he got it when he was training.
Yeah.
From Axel, from Ian. Dan's talked about that a lot. And Shane was not shy to give it to all of us. And I remember that was the first time I'd ever taken a snap suplex. Shane grabbed me, and it was, lying on the mat, not knowing how I got there, and thinking back to watching Dynamite Kid when I was growing up watching wrestling. So that's what it feels like. Yeah. That wasn't really pleasant. But Shane was just the toughest little guy, and deserves the memory that we provide, that we're honoring his legacy, because he was an incredibly tough wrestler, and so impressive in everything he did in the ring. Really strove to be the best he could. He was one of these little guys who just wasn't willing to be just a little guy. He was willing to get out there and give it his all, fight as hard as he could. And I still remember just, how shocked we were on the day that we learned he had passed. And I'm glad we're still doing this all these years later.
Yeah, any excuse to get Sharon in the MCW arena and get, little Brady up there and the rest of his family is a welcome.
The family's great. Some of them have had birthday parties here. Mm-hmm. It's an extended family. I do just want to point out that Brandon Scott is technically the longest reigning Shamrock Cup champion since we had the year off. So for everybody listening, he won in 2019. He did not defend it in 2020, obviously. So he technically has held the title for over 2 years now, because we are in November.
Well, I guess it depends who you talk to, because Andy Weinberg's got a completely different opinion about that.
Indeed he does. And he's not afraid to voice it to the president of MCW Pro, Mr. Phil Stamper.
Yes, well, on the championship committee, myself, I've had to have an earful of it as well. So, Nat, do you want to clue our listeners
sure.
a little bit? They haven't picked up on
back
social media.
in Millersville in October, James Ellsworth beat Brandon Scott, and depending on who was watching, it looked like there was a little bit of interference from Andy.
Oh, some chicanery.
Yeah, some chicanery. Yeah, just maybe. So since that point in time, Andy's claiming that James Ellsworth is now the Shamrock Memorial Cup winner because he beat the existing winner. That being said, James Ellsworth isn't going to be here Friday. The winner's circle does have an entrant with Sam Adonis in the cup. So, we'll see if maybe Sam could come out as this year's champion.
But now that's just not the way titles are won. It has to be a sanctioned title match. You can't just say, well, I beat a champion, so therefore now I'm a champion. It doesn't work that way.
It works that way in Andy's head.
And that's the key. It's when you have a manager like a Bobby the Brain Heenan that they kind of bring up all of these things, like the logic behind, whatever is their argument. And a lot of the times when you think of those Paulies, those James E. Cordettes, a lot of the times what they say makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. And James Ellsworth, by hook or by crook, beat Brandon Scott. So,
this is true.
It doesn't work that way from the championship committee, but at the same time, and I think a lot of the fans are like, well, Andy does kind of have a point. We don't like him, but so yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how.
Do you think so? 'Cause I don't think there's a single fan in our fan base who's legitimizing that Ellsworth is our Shane Shamrock Memorial Cup champion for the year.
This is true. I mean, and I don't think that people take Andy Weinberg as seriously as Andy Weinberg takes himself. You know, the other day he posted a little blast from the past video of an evening when we went on a date. And some of the comments people were posting were basically giving him a hard time. And, you know, so they weren't taking him seriously. But it was kind of funny if you happen to follow Andy Weinberg on social media. He did post that last week. But
was he trying to discredit you as a member of the championship committee?
You know, I don't know. You know, I
I'm
don't
gonna
know.
have to
you seen that video?
I haven't seen that video.
So
no.
it was from 2017, actually. And we went on a date at Jimmy's Famous Seafood. And it is quite a unusual date. So I'll just say that out there that, you know, maybe we can throw that up on Flashback Friday.
Sounds like a hoot. Is what it sounds like.
It was interesting. So, but he did post that. I guess it was, you know, one of those flashbacks that pop up on your timeline or whatever. And yeah, so.
Sometimes I love those. Sometimes I hate them.
Yes, I think that we all agree with that.
So regardless of the case that Andy's trying to make, Brandon Scott is in the tournament this year. He's going to try to be, I think, the third person who would be repeating as a Shane Shamrock Memorial Cup champion.
Yeah, we have
the fourth, as we've got Joey, Christian, and Leo of all.
Yep, Joey, Christian, and Leo have all multiple time winners of the Shane Shamrock Memorial Cup. Yeah, so he will be the fourth person to, if he can squeak it out. I mean, not to discredit Brandon Scott at all, Mr. Excellent. He certainly is, you know, a formidable force here in MCW Pro and has been for a while. But that would be a feather in the cap of Brandon Scott if he could become a multiple-time Shane Shamrock Memorial Cup winner.
And going into that particular year where the Shamrock Cup was kind of unique because Brandon had come so close, so many years in a row. So, you know, in 2018, the fans were like, oh, this is going to be Brandon's year. This is going to be Brandon's year. You know, 2017, like, you know, so he has a history here of where the fans really wanted to see him do this thing. And so, you know, I think he's going to have that kind of fan favorite advantage, and he's going to have the people behind him. Like, can he be in the same league as, you know, Joey, Christian, Leo Rush?
Well, I mean, he's got the odds stacked against him with the winner's circle closely watching anything that he does to make sure that he is not a multiple-time Shane Shamrock Memorial Cup winner. But, yeah, anything can happen at the Shane Shamrock Memorial Cup, as we've seen many years in the past. And who'd have thought that one day we would be across the table from one another going into Shane Shamrock Memorial Cup 20. Yep. Do you remember WrestleMania 20? How significant, how much of a milestone that was to think, wow, I watched 10. I watched one. They've done 20 iterations of this.
Right. Well, we weren't anticipating it. When looking at the trophy right now, there's not enough spots anymore. So I've heard Dan talk about maybe adding on to the trophy or doing something to
maybe
make
you could
sure
do it on the
room.
sides. You know where the plaques are, because we only have room for 18 on the front. So maybe, you know, go along the sides or something. But yeah, that's that just shows what a testament it is. And the thing I think that makes it so unique is that this is the one show that draws people from all over, not just the country, but all over the world. So we, in the months, even years leading up to every Shane Shamrock Cup, we get people sending in their videos, sending in, you know, their resumes. Hey, I really want to work for you. You know, and this is traditionally it's a focus on cruiserweights. And, you know, there's a lot of great up and coming wrestlers out there, and this is one that just draws from all over. So this is a time, if you're a longtime MCW fan, this is a unique show for you because we bring in lots of people who you would not typically see on an MCW show, and that just shows, you know, just how big it's become because we're not going after other people, they're coming after us to work here on this occasion because it is, you know, not just meaningful, but, you know, it's a big deal.
Yeah, and you got tremendous talents who've come through and have ended up, you see them on TV every week. Adam Cole's a former champion. We've had people like Sami Callihan. I remember a few years ago we had Tommaso Ciampa here.
Yeah,
and
that was a great one. I do remember
that was terrific. Him against Leo Rush was just an incredible matchup. So it's great to see all the people who use this as just another way of getting themselves up into the big time where they're appearing on national television.
Yeah.
And the added bonus is they have to come back the next year and defend it.
That's right. So you kind of sign up to at least be seen multiple times if you win. Also, I just think it's a great step in the journey. Tournaments. It's prestigious. You've got your Best of the Best by CZW, your Super 8 Cup, or Super 8 by ECWA, and then you've got the Super J Cup, which had a classic confrontation between MCW's Keenan Creed and AJ Styles. And that's what tournaments like this provide, is those dream match confrontations that go down in history. Amazing Red and Reckless Youth.
Oh yeah.
Jay and Mark Briscoe. They were just talking on MCW Backstage Pass with Nicole and Kim, and they were talking about, hey, Michael's 8th Avenue. You open a match, And,
Oh my gosh, they weren't even old enough to be in the Shane Shamrock Cup.
That's right. Yeah, not at all. Yeah,
we could only use them in Delaware.
We cut a lot of corners for them. Yeah.
We had to use them sparingly.
Can you think back to maybe one of your favorite MCW Shane Shamrock Memorial Cup memories? I know you got to have one.
I don't know.
I'll get the ball rolling.
Okay, go ahead.
How about Shane Shamrock Memorial Cup, the last one we did for Michael's 8th Avenue, where right before the main event, I wrestled Tough Enough Scott Chong to take it back to just having a match, in 2021 in Trenton.
Right.
And if you watch that match, all I'm giving him is chops. All I'm doing is chopping him down to size, hassa, all in the corner. So yeah, that was another instance where it was like, Larry, you want to have a match? And I'm like, what? I guess, So mine by far, to be selfish, is what I wrestled. I wrestled a match at one of the Shane Shamrock Memorial Cups in the past in Michael's.
So for me, it's, after I stopped performing, coming back for the Shane Shamrock Memorial Cup was something I had to do every year because it's like a reunion.
Yeah.
Everyone from MCW in the past is here backstage, and I love the tradition that we have of all of us coming down and surrounding the ring when it gets to the final guys. It just shows how much everyone who's been here, even if they're not on the shows anymore, loves and respects what MCW's created over the years.
So actually, I was going to talk about that too. So for years, I was a heel, so I didn't get to go ringside. I always had to be up on the stage, where all the heels were and everything. And I remember the first time that I got to go ringside for it, it was like 2016 maybe, so it wasn't that long ago. It was a very brief period where I was with the Hellcats for about a year and a half, and it was so cool being down there because you could feel the energy radiating, and when everybody starts slapping on the mat at the same time, your hands are bloody, like not bloody, but like bright red and bruised, and everybody's into it, and you just feed off of the energy from the guys in the ring when it comes down to those final two, and then it just spreads like wildfire around everybody. And for me, I thought that was like such a cool experience because I'd only ever witnessed it from the stage, and in fact, so many years, I'm like the little one in the back, like you can't even see me because there's so many guys standing there, and so I wouldn't push in front, but so it was just, I think that is such a unique thing that we can share kind of with them, like we're there on that journey. And I think when it comes down to those final two, it doesn't matter who wins, like everybody down there is just for either one of them at that point, it's just because it's the best of the best.
It is. And it's establishing stars. There's people who come out of those finals are going on to bigger and better things and really being recognized by the wrestling community as a whole. That if you win the Shane Shamrock Memorial Cup, it really counts for something.
Mm-hmm.
So who are some of the people we can see performing in this year's? Anybody looking over the lineup, Larry, anybody sticking out in your mind as like the person to watch? And then I'll throw the same thing to you too, Nat. Well,
I got my eye on two of the participants. Number one, I might be wrong on this, but I think he may be making his MCW Pro debut. Jake Crist is a longtime veteran of the ring from the Ohio area, Dayton, Ohio, former member of the Irish Airborne. I'm quite familiar with him. He's tournament tested, and I am going to really be looking forward to seeing him tear it up here in MCW Pro. And then also another individual that's really just been tearing it up on the scene, Ninja Mac, is going to be in the cup this year. I believe he's going to be facing Sam Adonis in opening round qualifying match action. So I will be looking forward to Ninja Mac and Jake Crist. Also, it'll be cool to see Shannon Moore.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go.
Yeah, didn't mean to steal your thunder, but yeah. So what were you?
I mean, from my perspective, it's great to see guys who've been around for a long time, who've had that presence on national television already, and coming in and maybe even trying to reestablish and get the name back out there. So Shannon Moore is someone, when I saw that name come up as a participant this year, I was really surprised and very excited to see someone who's been there and done that coming in and joining our tournament.
Yeah. He's such a different looking individual in his waning years, I've noticed, from the kind of long haired, teeny bopper, magazine, kid that was accompanying Matt Hardy during that version 1 era of SmackDown. I remember vividly. And then also his time in WCW. He's a cruiserweight, but he's a man now, so.
Well, you bring up
not that he wasn't a man in the past.
You bring up a good point that pretty much all of our contestants in the Shamrock qualifying matches are experienced, except for one. And he comes right out of MCW Training Center and has been making quite a scene. And I'm talking about Action Andretti. As far as the other competitors are concerned, he's a relative newcomer. I mean, he's been here for a few years, but, we obviously had the big shutdown for a year and a half, so nobody saw him. And, he's really making a name for himself and starting to get out there. And so, I wonder, will his youthful enthusiasm be enough to propel him to the next round, or is this going to be a case where experience is going to pay off, and just having that wisdom and the experience of having done tournament matches, as you had mentioned about some of the competitors, like, sure, where is that going to play out for him?
The pressure's on. This is going to be one of the highest profile matches, if not the highest profile match he's ever had. So sometimes with the young kids coming out, they feel that pressure and don't live up to it. But he's been on fire, like you said. It's been very impressive to see what he's done in the MCW ring. I think he's going to do really well.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he fares. And also another newcomer that's in the fray this year, the Golden Boy, Miles Hawkins.
Right, true. I didn't mean to not talk about him.
Well, I'm just saying, you kind of jostled.
I went straight to Action Andretti. I'm sorry. I was glancing down. There are 2 competitors. Yeah, sorry about that.
It's quite all right, but I was thinking that's where you were going. But then you actually reminded me that Action as well is going to be a newcomer into the fray.
Yeah. Well, we've been seeing both of them really have some high-profile matches here in MCW. We had just recently at Monster Mash, Miles Hawkins and Ken Dixon. And both of these guys are getting a lot of experience.
Yeah, and Monster Mash as well. Tony Deppen and Action Andretti.
That's right.
So.
Yeah, Miles has gotten a lot of battle testing recently.
Yeah.
Even before that, he fought Drolix not that long ago in the dog collar match here, and he's proven he's tough and really could step up and be a surprise in the tournament.
Well, assuming that they advance, past their first match, I mean, you got to figure they're going to go into whatever their first matchup is with all the energy and fire that they can possibly have. And then if they beat their opponent, they've got to bring that same energy, but amped up 10 times to the next round. This could be a case where their youth will actually work in their favor,
Yeah, indeed. Stamina.
Right. That's the word. Now, I will say that the 2 I'm most looking forward to seeing are actually Luke and Perry Hawks.
Yes, indeed.
So, I don't know if you've all have watched Heels, but of course, Luke Hawks had a role in that, not just as a performer, but he was putting together the matches for the actors to do on that show. It's a fantastic show. If you haven't watched it on Stars, please do. But he and his son are, they both work out of Louisiana, out of Wildcat Sports, and I've never seen them together before, so I'm kind of looking forward to that. Could we see them facing each other, in fact, in a qualifying match?
Well, it bears mentioning as well. We were already talking about Brandon Scott he has a chance to become a repeat champion, but Luke Hawks has also been a Shane Shamrock champion, and so maybe he's the surprise, and he's going to be the guy who joins Joey, Christian, and Leo as a repeat champion.
Or could it be his protege, his son, getting his first shot? I mean, I love the just ambiguity about that, and that it could go to either one. Like, those are the 2 I'm looking at.
Actually, as the gears turn in my head, since Luke Hawk has already been Shamrock Memorial Cup winner, what if Luke Hawks throws the match and, intentionally goes out there and hurts his opponent, knowing that, his son will be able to pick up. You never know. You know what I'm saying? Like the machinations of a father-son duo,
right?
Especially when one has already been crowned king. Here's the heir apparent to the throne. He wants to make it so that his boy is the first ever father-son. Wow, this is like dynamic. Just even considering it, I'm glad you threw that out there on the table.
Hey, he's got some ulterior motivations for sure.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what makes this tournament so unique. You know, there's so many twists and turns that it can take. And that's the thing. There's nobody that enters this competition that couldn't be a winner. And that's what's really special about it. You know, it's just not one of those where you think, oh, that they definitely have the advantage. It's anybody's game here. And they all want it.
Yeah. Well, time will tell. With that said, we're going to take one last break here, and then we're going to come back right here on the MCW Cast and wrap it up with a little bit more Shane Shamrock Memorial Talk.
Fuel the MCW Cast by visiting buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast. And for just $3, you can buy the cast a coffee. Or you can choose to become a member of the cast for just $5 a month and get several additional perks. That's buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast.
All right, since we've been talking so much about this exciting tournament, I wanted to throw out there that there are still some great seats remaining. It'll be right here in Joppa, Maryland at the MCW Arena. And you can, of course, get your tickets at mcwprowrestling.com. Or if you'd like to go in person, you can go to our licensed ticket retailer, which is Hideaway Collectibles, right on Holabird Avenue in lovely Dundalk, right down the street from Jimmy's Famous Seafood, home of the Bruiser Burger and pumpkin spice crab cakes. I just want to throw that out there. I have not tried them yet, but I plan on it. But Hideaway Collectibles is your place for Funko Pops, wrestling memorabilia, collectibles, you name it, and they have got it there. And if you caught them at the Toy Expo at Benfield Sports Arena last weekend, maybe you picked up some of that cool merchandise because, and I know I've said this before, you just never know who we're going to bring in here and when. So you want to make sure you've got those collectibles out there that could potentially be autographed and maybe worth some money one day.
Absolutely. And real quick, before we wrap up here, I know we've been talking a lot about the Shane Shamrock Memorial Cup in our memories. Real quick, just want to give a huge condolences to the family of a legend, Tom Casati, recently passed away, a figure in many of the Shamrock Cups in the past, and someone that will be missed around here at MCW Pro. So from all of us at the MCW Pro family to the family of Tom Casati, he was a member of our family, our extended family, and we wish you our heartfelt condolences on the passing of such a great, great man.
Yep. Absolutely. That one really got me.
Yeah.
You know, because we had, I'd known him for years, but we had gotten close over the
You were
last 2
mentioning that.
years.
Yeah.
After Bruiser had gotten diagnosed, he had reached out and, we just connected, and I don't sleep a lot and he's up late at night. And so we would just have these hours long talks over the phone and chatting. And, I'm so thankful that I got that, but gosh, that really just kind of hit me. It was like, oh, I didn't see that coming,
Yeah, it's just a reminder
Right.
to hug your loved ones and look your colleagues and friends in the eyes. Let them know that you care about them. You're happy to have been around them for decades now. Nat and Tara, who I'm right across the
let's not
table
talk about
from.
that.
Yeah,
Yep.
and
I can still hear the whistle.
oh
my gosh,
that
yes.
piercing whistle.
Yes. Yep. Well, gentlemen, I'm going to let you all take it over from here. I know you have lots to talk about with the Shane Shamrock Cup. And also, don't forget, we've got Hollywood the very next night on the 13th. So that we make our big year-and-a-half return to, it's been a little over that. So anyway, I've got to head out. Some championship committee business to attend to. So enjoy the rest of the cast, everyone. And I'll see you next week.
All right. Thank you, Tara.
Bye, Tara.
Bye-bye.
Show your support for the MCW Cast while sporting some great gear by going to teespring.com/stores/MCWcast. You can pick up a full line of official MCW Cast merchandise, from coffee mugs and face coverings to t-shirts and sweatshirts. Visit teespring.com/stores/MCWcast.
So we've talked about the tournament, but we haven't talked about some of the other matches on the card yet. And we've got a big championship match with Brian Johnson against Moses.
Oh, yes, the new #1 contender is solidified at Monster Mash. Moses will be getting his opportunity to fight Brian Johnson for the championship. My money's on Moses.
He's certainly motivated going in, but like we see from Brian Johnson, every time he speaks, Mecca versus everyone, and I think he's prepared for someone like Moses. They know each other very well.
Indeed. Well, that and so much more at the Shane Shamrock Memorial Cup 20. Who knows? We might have some luminaries in attendance. I wouldn't be surprised if Leo Rush popped up. He's been around, if he could find time in his schedule, between doing AEW and...
Well, his heart's with MCW. He comes back and visits every once in a while. It's always good to see him.
And that's what I'm saying. You really feel the love on Shane Shamrock Memorial Cup nights, and that's why, who knows, who'll pop up just to kind of carouse and be with their friends one more time in honor of Shane Shamrock, Brian Hauser.
Yep. And a couple other championship matches as well. We've got Megan Bain against Ray Lynn, our champion.
Oh, yes.
So Ray Lynn's been really showing that she's a fighting champion. She's willing to take on everybody here, and it doesn't matter who it is. She seems prepared for everyone who comes against her. But this is going to be Megan Bain's, I think, first match in MCW.
Well, she fought at Monster Mash.
Okay, yes,
she actually
that's
had
right.
a successful debut at MCW Pro, defeating former MCW Women's Champ Gia Scott in a classic confrontation.
That's
quite
right.
frankly.
Okay, so that definitely positions her as the number one contender. And,
Indeed, yeah, and very just a real sight to behold. Pardon me, action for calling her that. But there's a lot to be said in an entrance and nailing it. And if Megan Bain didn't nail that entrance, it made it very easy for that ghoulish ring announcer to refer to her as Megasis, Megan Bain, with just the grandeur of how she took the stage at MCW Monster Mash. So, yeah, I'll be looking forward to that a lot.
Yep. And then the three-way match for the Tag Team Championship. So,
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Dante and G-Fed making waves. I'm sorry, not Dante.
Ryo
Ryo
and
and G-Fed. Pardon me, Dante Caballero and Ryo. But, yeah, making waves and, picking up wins left and right. And now have positioned themselves to actually become MCW Tag Team Champions.
yeah, and it's one of those unique things about wrestling is sometimes you get these teams that don't seem like they would mesh, but God, G-Fed and Ryo they get along, and you
Yeah.
can see it every time they hang out. It's clear that they've partied together a little bit as well.
And I know Ryo from his past. He can party. So, yeah, combustible situation, and everybody likes a tag team extravaganza. When you've got
Absolutely.
3 teams going, it's wild and woolly, let me tell you.
Yeah, and Chuck Lennox and Drolix, and then our champions, Seduce and Destroy.
That's right.
Who have proven themselves to be a very formidable tag team. There's a reason they're our champions. And now in this three-way match, we'll see how they can do against a team that has really proven itself with Drolix and Chuck, and then our new upstarts of Ryo and G-Fed.
I got to tell you, I can't stand a 3-way dance. I'm sorry, I can't stand a triple threat when the tag team or a championship is on the line, because essentially the champions don't even have to be pinned. If Black Wall Street, Drolix is able to score a pin on Ryo, it's over. And Ryo's not even the MCW Tag Team Champion, but just by default being involved in the match, it's one thing that I've always been kind of a pet peeve of mine. I am a bigger fan of the 3-way dance where one team's eliminated and then the last 2 teams square off. Sort of a more mano-a-mano showdown. So
Right. Well, if you hear Joe Keys and Bro Keller talking about it, they seem to think that Phil Stamper's got it in for them. He's the reason that Ryo and G-Fed even have another shot after they had a count-out win over Seduce and Destroy in Millersville just last month.
that's right.
So that's Phil clearly got the best of Seduce and Destroy and put them in a position where I think they just feel like the world's against them, especially when our GM is lining up all these competitors and putting them in a 3-way dance. Like you said, they don't even have to be in the pinfall to lose the belts.
Yeah, well, you know what? They kind of cowardly left the match in Millersville. And then Ryo was able to eke out that win over Joe Keys at Monster Mash. So all signs are pointing to the fact that G-Fed and Ryo deserve another opportunity. So I'm looking forward to it, Nat. I'm looking forward to the entire Shane Shamrock Memorial Cup. Brent Taring's going to be there. Deacon Storm's going to be there. Pat Anthony's going to be there. We're all going to be there. And we want you there, too. So
We do, and it's a double shot weekend for MCW. So we turn around the next night and return to Hollywood for the first time in almost 2 years.
Yeah, it kind of is strange to have the Shane Shamrock Memorial Cup be a part of the Autumn Armageddon tour. This will be the first Shane Shamrock Memorial Cup that we ever had, not in July,
Right.
Which is typically the birthday of MCW Pro. So yeah, it's gonna be an interesting experience to enter the MCW arena on a cold night to enjoy the Shane Shamrock Memorial Cup. But you're right, the Autumn Armageddon tour rolls right into Hollywood the next night. So we want to see you at both of those mega events for us here at MCW Pro.
Absolutely. It's going to be a heck of a weekend And I'm sure a lot of our fans who come to Joppa regularly will make that road trip down
Oh,
to Hollywood.
gosh, yeah.
It's not that far,
Not
and this
far
is
at all.
potentially going to be the first chance to see whoever wins the tournament in competition.
Yeah, there's always that moment where you see, your reckless youth come out for the first time with the actual beautiful Shane Shamrock Memorial Cup championship belt. And who knows, it might be Brandon Scott.
It might. And, if it's not Sam Adonis, I'm kind of curious to see what Andy Weinberg does when he's been protesting the tournament all along.
Yeah, it might be a way that we finally can rid ourselves of the winner's circle here at MCW Pro. We'll have to wait and see how the championship committee and President Phil Stamper handle that. So many things that I just am looking forward to, and I know that you are too. Well, Nat, Tara dipped out of the room just a moment ago, and I think that at this point, we can wrap up this special edition of the MCW Cast, taking a look back at all things Shane Shamrock Memorial Cup. I want to thank you for joining us here.
Thank you for having me. It's a blast to come in here and co-host, and I'm looking forward to other opportunities to do this in the future.
Well, we're looking forward to having you again in the future, and we're looking forward to seeing you fans at the Shane Shamrock Memorial Cup on Friday night, November the 12th, and looking forward to seeing you right back here next Tuesday for another insightful edition of the MCW Cast. For Platinum Nat, the lovely Tara, I'm Larry Legend. We'll see you all next week.